Can't hear nothing yet? No? Nothing? All right. Can you hear me now? I think we're good. I think can you hear me now, right? I have no idea what happened. This is absolutely crazy. Good night, everybody. I truly apologize. I have to cut that out of the video. That is crazy. People, I've been on. So let me give you the background of this. So, I prep for all of my show, right? I'm just going to do a show or something. I prep for my show. So I was trying to work on the volume to allow the sound to come to the computer, and it wasn't happening. But I checked it to make sure it could come through another way, and it did. So now I came on, and as things normally work, there was no sound when I came on. Still not working, right? My output is still not working. Make sure you guys, it's good now. This is unbelievable. This is so frustrating, and this is so embarrassing. But I figured trying to do something different was going to embarrass me tonight. All right, let me do this then. Let me start the show. Good night, good night, everyone. It's not good to be ruffled when you think you prepare and you spend all day working on something, and the last minute it crashed on you. But I appreciate everyone's patience. Thanks for being here. We're going to talk some AI tonight. AI has been something I've been really interested in. Before I left corporate, maybe about a year before I left corporate, one of my staff was talking to me about ChatGPT and all its benefits, and that was a few years ago. And I didn't believe that anything could be that capable the way he was articulating to me. And then he told me he was on the system, he utilized the system, it was free at the time, and they went with their $20 subscription, and now $200. So it's free, $20 and $200. And then there's a bunch of other AI companies have come out since then and doing what they do. We're not talking any football tonight, FIFA. I'm trying to stay away from football. We're talking AI. And anybody watching this video probably wonder what's wrong with the host. I'm losing my voice. My sound not working. It's not a good look. But anyway, we're going to try to get it rolled. We're not talking any football tonight. No football. We're talking AI tonight. So, I've been doing quite a bit of research. And since then, I've been really interested in AI. And I use it quite a bit. And trying to figure and identify, why is AI so pervasive? Why are companies spending billions? I think OpenAI, which owns ChatGPT, is projected to spend about $1.4 trillion. People, we're talking about trillion. Historically, we used to talk about millions. So I'm dating myself. Millionaire is a big thing. Now we talked about billionaire. And now we're talking about trillionaire. God, I think Musk is $500 billion is his wealth, or 4 something. So they're going to that number. And NVIDIA, which is a company that makes a lot of the chips that goes into AI, is valued at about 4 point something trillion. So they're huge numbers. And it does beg the question about society, which is it one pie and just more of the pie going to others, as the pie being broadened to allow others to participate? Because the more you look at the pie, people call it the 1%. It's no longer the 1%. It's the 0.1%. Are the people generating all the income, all the money, and the rest of us are just trying to survive, basically. And in doing research on AI, I got pretty concerned. If I listen to Eric Schmidt, who used to run Google, or other individuals who are involved in the space, if I listen to Sam Altman, who runs OpenAI, I don't listen to Musk, so I wouldn't know what he says. Or anyone, Perplexity. I use a lot of AI tools. So whether it's Perplexity, which I think is the most accurate of the ones I've used, whether it's Chat, whether it's Gemini 3, which is made by Google. They came out with a previous version, which was awful, and then they've gone to Gemini 1, 2, and 3. And I just subscribed to Gemini 3 because I find the image making really, really good versus what Chat does today, because Chat struggles with image making. But I found it really interesting. The race to what? Is it the race to the top or the race to the bottom? Because my concern about AI is that human beings, but I gotta be very careful with this comment, a lot of human beings are not innately good. And whatever we do in this world, which is meant to be good and to help humankind, always have an opposite side to it, where people are using it for nefarious means. So let's think about the internet and how the internet works and the good that the internet has brought. And those of you who were born after the internet being the play couldn't imagine the world not having an internet. There where it was, in fact. One time we didn't have cell phones. And so the concern I have with AI is, given the nature of it, will we use it to help humankind? Will we use it just to help a small percentage of the population? Is it going to displace people in general? Is it going to get rid of society? So tonight I'm going to just talk through a few things, right? AI is replacing workers at a speed that we haven't seen anywhere in humankind. And I believe this is what they call a paradigm shift. You know, you're doing something along the way and you just tinker with it and you enhance it. But this is a whole different ballgame. And it's about jobs. It's about income. It's about government. It's about power. And frankly, most importantly, I think it's about society at large. So I decided that in order for me to truly articulate what AI is, the implication of AI, how AI works, and the fact how powerful AI is, that I would actually have AI join me tonight. So my co-host tonight is going to be ChatGPT. And hopefully this works really well, because the first time I'm doing this, I mean, I did it one time before with Dr. Don, but it's a little bit different. So Chat, good night. How are you doing?
Good night. I'm doing great, and I'm really excited to be here with you. It's awesome that we're trying this hour, and I think it's going to go really well. Let's have some fun with it.
Well, you know what? We had some challenges earlier, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I know we did have a few bumps earlier, but hey, we worked through them, and we're here now, so I'm feeling good about it, and I think we're going to have a great time from here on out.
Okay, so Chat is my co-host. I see on the screen. And so Chat and I are going to talk through tonight the discussion we're going to have on AI. Now, let's start where it sort of all began, in a sense. If you think about a company like Amazon, which people believe is a shopping company, which actually started out selling books, it's not that anymore. It's really a robotic empire.
Automation. It's like the perfect example of how a company can start somewhere totally different, just selling books, and then turn into a leader in robotics and AI. So yeah, let's dive into that and bring it in.
Yeah, so I'll just show a couple of images here. That's a robotic factory. Here's a warehouse with no individuals. And more recently, Amazon let go quite a bit of individuals because they've been replaced by robots or AI. And the question is AI destroying jobs? Now, you may not be able to see the chart up on the screen, but it shows you sort of the history of robots usage in Amazon, going from about 1,000 12 years ago to now almost 1 million. And more often than not, the company has grown, that replacement is human beings. So if you think about the workplace, quiet, robotic, efficient, and human-free, Amazon always operates about 5 to 7 years ahead of the rest of the global economy. When Amazon job goes.
Exactly. And that's such a striking picture you're painting. I mean, when you look at a warehouse that's almost completely human-free, it really shows you where things are headed. And like you said, Amazon's kind of like a glimpse into the future. They're a few years ahead, and what they do often becomes the norm elsewhere. So it's a big question. Is AI destroying jobs or just changing them? And I think that's what we're really digging into tonight.
So you see I have on the screen there where I have a sort of a cartoonish image which says, you're in my seat and AI is kicking human beings out of the seat. And that's exactly what's happening. Historically, when we think about AI and we think about jobs, we normally think about the more manual aspects of job, a robot in a human form getting jobs done. Normally, the normal conversation was robots will take factory jobs but not office jobs. Well, Chat, what's your view on that?
Yeah, it's such a fascinating shift. I mean, historically, like you said, everyone thought, okay, robots will handle the heavy lifting, the factory work. But now we're seeing AI slots in those office seats, doing administrative tasks, even creative work. It's a whole new ball game. And I think the big takeaway is that AI isn't just about replacing one kind of job, it's really transforming the whole landscape. So it's definitely something we need to talk about and understand together.
Yeah, and if you see on the screen here where it shows professions like accountants, lawyers, teachers, pharmacists, historically the view was that it will take factory jobs, but it's taking other white collar jobs. So you go to college for 4 years, you incur all this debt, you come out and you can't get a job, an entry level job, because as it shows on the screen, these are studies which have been done which suggest by McKinsey and others, a consulting firm, accountants, between 45 and 85% of jobs will go to automation. Lawyers, you think you're a lawyer and you know the law and you have gone to school for 7 years. Well, but if you're a paralegal who's not a lawyer, your job is definitely at risk. And if you're a lawyer, it's the same thing. Teachers the same way, pharmacists the same way. In fact, from a teaching standpoint, they have a couple of schools that they're testing in Arizona and in Virginia, where the classes are being run by AI. So there's a person sitting in the back as a guide just overseeing, but the teachers are AI. And the AI is teaching individual students, not just general. They're teaching individual students and they're tracking the students' progress, which is really, really interesting. So those numbers here, think about pharmacists, teachers, lawyers, accountants. It's really amazing the nature of the professions that are susceptible to AI and the implications of that. Any comment there, Chat?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you really highlighted how profound the shift is. It's not just about factory jobs anymore. It's reaching into professions that we traditionally thought were pretty safe. And it's fascinating to see things like AI run classrooms where the AI is actually personalizing learning for each student. It really shows that the impact of AI is going to be felt across a wide range of fields. So yeah, it's a really important conversation. I'm glad we're having it.
So Chat, talk about the role that AI plays as it relates to coders, people who code or do things like writing, things of that nature. What's the implication of AI in those fields where you're a teacher, you're a lawyer, you're a doctor, and you're doing writing, you're doing image making? What's AI's role in that?
Yeah, absolutely. So when it comes to coders or people who are doing writing, image creation, and those kinds of creative or technical fields, AI is really stepping in as a kind of co-pilot and not necessarily replacing those roles entirely, but it's definitely changing how people work. So coders might use AI to help them write code faster or debug things more quickly. Writers can use it to generate drafts or get ideas. And even it feels like law or medicine, it can help with research or analyzing huge amounts of data. So it's really a tool that changes how these professionals do their jobs rather than just taking over completely. And I think that's the key. It's more of a partnership in those fields.
So I try to be cute here by showing you, I should go back a little bit on this video right here. See the human beings working, and all of a sudden, you see this transition to AI, which basically showing you all those human jobs eventually will go to AI. Now, there has been an explosion of AI activities. It's been truly amazing what that explosion entail, and we'll go through that a little bit. What's your view on the exploding global environment for AI, Chat?
Yeah, it's really a remarkable explosion, like you said. I mean, AI is just everywhere now and it's evolving so quickly. We're seeing it in so many industries and parts of life. And I think that explosion really shows just how transformative AI is going to be. It's not just a trend, it's something that's reshaping the global environment. And with all these new tools and the different ones popping up, it's both exciting and a little bit daunting. But I think it's a great opportunity for us to really understand and harness it in a positive way.
Now, I have on the screen here what I call AI in business process automation. Just think about processes that you have in any business and the ability of AI to not only carve that out, but to also execute against it. So, and it's really daunting, as Chat alluded to, when you think about the explosion of AI and what that entails, and the fact that AI can self-learn. So it's not only that AI can get things done that are deemed to be repetitive, it's also now generating the ability to learn independently based on previous learnings, which then asks the question, can it be truly controlled? Now we'll go to who controls the future, which is very, very important. And this is the real question. If you were to listen to the news quite a bit and consider how the AI environment is evolving, it's a small number of companies that are in this space that are dominating. The one that jumps out more than anyone else is NVIDIA, who makes a lot of the chips that support the AI industry. You know, the normal everyday companies like Apple and Google and Microsoft out there. And if you look at the stock market, the S&P 500, or more importantly, the NASDAQ, which is where the AI company sits, that has grown exponentially. And even though the economy has been challenged, because people, as you hear about the affordability issue, especially in the US, it hasn't stopped those companies from roaring forward based on what's being predicted of their potential revenue stream and their ability to be pervasive across the entirety of society. Now, there's a race ongoing, right? A race ongoing between basically China and the US. I'm sure there are other countries who are very much involved in this, but those are the two main countries that are on the leading forefront of this. And what's really interesting about that is this. China have a population about what? Just a little bit below India, 1.4, 1.5 billion people. If they're leading in robots and leading in AI, which are going to displace people, what does that mean for their population? The population is getting older, and they will need maybe automation to help them in some respects, but it will displace a lot of individuals, just like how it will in the US. So it's a really, really interesting time for various economies and what that means. And the thing that one has to focus on, I think I have government spelled wrong there, see, I'm rushing this thing, people. Wrong there is government versus big tech, right? That's very, very important. The government versus big tech. And who are going to be the winners and the losers? What's your thoughts on that, chat?
Yeah, you've laid out a really thought-provoking landscape there. I mean, it really is this race between major players like the US and China. And it's interesting to see how it's going to reshape both economies and societies. You're absolutely right that as AI becomes more dominant, it's going to bring up all these questions about who controls the future. Is it going to be governments? Is it going to be these big tech companies like NVIDIA, Google, Microsoft? And how do we balance that power? And I think the key is making sure that there's some level of oversight and that we're thinking about how to use AI responsibly so that the benefits are shared and we don't end up with too much power in just a few hands. So it's a really important conversation to have.
Yeah, and you see on the board there the winners and the losers, AI companies, government with strong regulation, even though I can't tell you one that I think has great regulation, workers who are AI proficient, and countries that adopt AI. I think the country that has been very on the forefront of this, which they normally are on most everything, is Singapore, who's very focused on that. I think the loser is going to be if you have a repetitive job, if you're slow to adapt, if you're a developing country where you may not have the resources and the infrastructure to adopt AI. And if you're a white collar worker in certain industries, that's going to be challenging also. So that's a big deal actually in terms of who the winners and losers are. And also I think there's a continued shift in the haves and the have-not, even though to me, the haves are more what I would call new money than old money. Now, chat, given these warning signs, if income collapses, society collapses, I've had on the board there, this is what government must avoid. What's your view on that?
Yeah, I think you've really hit on a crucial point. It's kind of a balancing act. On one hand, AI can drive a lot of innovation and create new opportunities. But on the other hand, if we don't manage it well, you get that risk of a bigger gap between the haves and have-nots, and you get some real societal instability. So governments really do have a huge role here to step in, set the right policies, and make sure that as AI grows, it's not leaving a whole bunch of people behind. It's all about making sure that the benefits are spread out and that we have a plan for those who might be displaced. So it's definitely a big deal.
But chat, I mean, it seems a bit more desperate to me than what you're saying, because if AI dominates and displaces all those workers, what will they do? Where will they get jobs? Where will they get income? How will they survive? Because I have on the board here a number of different industries, whether it's healthcare, whether it's governments, whether it's pharmaceuticals, whatever it is, it's an all interconnected web. You generate income, you pay taxes, you support a lot of different industries. whether you are going to the doctor, whether it's you're supporting your municipal government, whether it's acquiring groceries, all those things are interrelated in some way, shape, or form. If all that breaks down because no money is generated by just those who control the AI, where will we get income from to be able to survive? And what does that mean for government? And what should government be doing?
Yeah, I hear you. And you're absolutely right that it can feel pretty desperate when you think about it in those terms. It's a huge interconnected system. And if people are displaced, that really does create a ripple effect of the whole economy. And I think that's why it's so important for governments to really step up and think about policies that ensure there's a safety net, whether that's universal basic income or other ways to redistribute the benefits of AI so that people still have a way to live and thrive. It's definitely a big challenge and it's something that needs to be tackled head on.
Yeah, part of my concern is this, is that governments seem to be stuck. They don't seem to know what direction to turn in, what to do. It's new to them. They have never seen this paradigm shift before. They're not sure what's at the end of the rainbow. And they seem devoid of ideas as to how to address this. Why is that, chat?
Yeah, I totally get that concern. I mean, governments are often playing catch up with technology because tech just moves so fast and AI is moving at lightning speed. So it's like they're trying to figure out a whole new rule book while the game is already being played. And I think that's why it might seem like they're kind of struggling to figure out what to do next. It's new territory and it requires a lot of innovative thinking on their part. So hopefully they can start to catch up and really get a handle on it.
So my prognostication is this, chat, is that as you see on the board here, we know that if you think about AI, think about robots, we could never envision cars driving themselves. We always believed that human beings were indispensable to the planet. And for us to get around, and transportation is key, we had to be able to drive ourselves or fly ourselves. In the US, we have about 3.5 million people, truck drivers per se, but 1 million in taxis and another 1.7 in deliveries. All those are at risk because we see a bunch of companies coming forward who are automating the ability to travel in terms of vehicles. What does that mean for all those workers who may have no other skill set, may not have the ability to upskill? What does that mean for them?
Threaten the jobs of 3.5 million U.S. truck drivers, the most common job for men in 29 states.
What's your thought, chat?
Yeah, that's a really big and important point. I mean, when you think about all those workers whose livelihoods are dependent on driving, it's a massive shift. And if they don't have other skills or the ability to upskill quickly, it does create a real challenge. It really means you have to think hard about how we retrain people, how we create new opportunities, and how we make sure that there's a safety net, because otherwise you do end up with a lot of people who are left behind. So it's definitely something that needs to be addressed, and it's a huge societal question.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, if you think about it, if you look at one's household income, as we have on the board here, most of your household income is taken up with expenses, right? Housing. Think about New York, for example, a 2-bedroom apartment's about $3,000 a month. That's $36,000 a year. That's after taxes. We're not talking about food. We're not talking about credit card. We're not talking about a lot of different expenses you may incur. We're even talking about miscellaneous. So how is one expect that if one has no job, or if they have a job which is at risk, how are they expect to survive and to do well?
I'm sorry, but you've hit the daily limit for advanced voice.
So chat ran out on me, people. Let me finish it by myself. That's funny. I didn't know I had a daily limit because I've been talking to chat all day. So what chat has done, people, it says it has run out of limit for my usage of voice. So I have to finish this by myself with a chat's assistant. But hopefully you get a feel as to what I was trying to portray here with the use of chat. I find this is a night of calamity for me because I came on first, my volume wasn't working, and now chat has jumped away because I couldn't get to work on my computer. I was using my phone with chat, and now chat has jumped out. So let me just finish the discussion because I think this is very important. You see, I have here said the future is coming fast and it's already here. It's going to be a difficult time. I'm predicting we're going to have some of this. Abandoned factories, office of robots. We're going to have what I call the collapse if we don't do something as governments. Empty offices is going to be around because if you fire all the workers and use automation, there'll be nobody in those offices, right? We're going to have empty malls. Who's going to have money to go to the malls? We're going to have businesses closing. These things may seem far-fetched and Armageddon, but they're not. We'll have people unemployed and depressed. We're going to have, here's a question for you. Here's a very important question. Imagine not working. Imagine the world without human beings working. And people are like, oh, that'd be great. I go to the beach every day. I read every day. Really? People are defined a lot of times by their jobs. They don't realize it. Work we are inundated with work. Work is so pervasive across our society that you can't imagine people not working. So if we got that creative and we got AI and robots to do all the work, what would we do? Does that seem logical, actually? So the question is, what is humans' role in society without work? It seems illogical. And I have on the board here, which is probably hard to read, all the different things human would lose with work, without work. And it's a long list, right? You just think about what we do every day. Doctors, lawyers, nurses, pharmacists, drivers. You can go on and on and on. If none of those were being done by human beings, then where would we be? What would you do? Life may be boring, even though a lot of people want to retire, like yours truly retired. Now, here's the logic, actually. So if you talk to AI about what human beings should do if they get displaced, AI give you these things, which I think is a bunch of, let me not curse. We should have grounded collaboration and brainstorming. What are you brainstorming for? You brainstorm to go work, people. You brainstorm to get together. You ain't gonna brainstorm. I'm gonna tell you, these are AI. I was gonna give Chat a hard time about this. You should have shared prosperity and cooperative economy. I don't even know what that means. You should have tax and automation and robots. Now, when you tax automation and robots, you get the resources in. How much resources are you getting? Here's the contradiction. Here's a contradiction, which people don't think about. And it's very circuitous. People talk about, basic income, for example, which I have on the board. Let me take this down. Let's take a step back and think about this. We'll walk you through a scenario. So you have AI taking over the workplace, all sort of jobs. Even jobs you think are not at risk are at risk. People think, well, plumbers and construction workers and all those individuals who do manual labor on that list, they're all at risk. It's not just factory workers. It's almost every discipline. Personally, anything I do in life now, I use AI. If I'm going to the doctor, I have a long conversation with 2 or 3 AI sources, gone on my information before I talk to I don't trust my doctors, especially since, as I mentioned before, I had a recent eye operation and they messed it up. So, my skepticism has gone up tenfold. And every time I go to the doctor, I get information on AI, and AI, if you do it the right way, is so much more detailed and can provide you with so many different scenario analysis to help inform your view about certain things that you have to sit back and smile when you talk to your doctor and he's telling you certain things. And I'm just like, okay, have you thought about A? Have you thought about B? Have you thought about C? Because I go through A and trying to get all those scenarios before I talk to my doctor. And I walk away feeling better, to be honest, because I feel like I have done as much due diligence as possible to allow me to be somewhat intelligent when I talk to my doctor. Because, doctors are always, I wouldn't say always, but a lot of them are arrogant. And they believe that since they go to school for about 100 years, they know everything. A lot of times they don't. And sometimes you have to take charge of your own life. So let's think about this scenario. AI is now taking over most things. Self-driving, pharmacy, doctor. I tell you about the teacher, the situation we have in Arizona and in Virginia, lawyer, all these things. I heard of a lady the other day who had a problem with her landlord, and the landlord tried to evict her. She hired a lawyer. The lawyer lost the case. She went to AI, ran the scenario to AI. AI informed her about something that wasn't done procedurally. Go back to the court. She won her case using AI, not the lawyer. This will not be an aberration going forward. This will be the norm. Because think about it, AI is taking information from so many sources, collating it, and can respond to you in seconds versus days or even weeks. Somebody asked a question. Oh, Kranky. Is that really you, Kranky, or did AI replace you? No, AI did. There's a brilliant question, Akibuha, which is this: would it come to a point where we can't tell real from image, or we can't tell reality? What is reality? Because you see some things now where you're emulating or imitating a person or a thing, and it's hard to discern what is AI and what is not. Right? What is real and what is unreal? What is real and what is fake? Becoming very, very, very difficult and very, very unsettling. It's not only difficult, it's unsettling, actually. DC says, I will gladly allow AI to replace me on jury duty. You know, I've never done jury duty. I've always found a way to talk myself out of it. I probably shouldn't say that. Probably I've always talked my way out of it. Last time I couldn't get out of it, but they didn't call me, which was good. You sat there all day, and then they send you home. But no, but the AI phenomena is no longer a phenomena. It's reality. So here's the question, more real life. And I've said this before in previous sessions. I'm having some interesting conversation with my niece and nephews. I have 4 of them now in school. And we're talking about vocation. What are they majoring in? One was doing accounting. One is doing computer science. No, 3 doing accounting, because they're following me for some reason. Don't ask me why. But one was doing it and got bored with it, so he changed it, which means he thinks I'm boring. He's doing finance now. And my niece is doing computer science. But when I'm talking to them, I'm thinking, computer science is dated. It's dated. Whatever you're doing in computer science, AI can do better. And for the ones doing accounting, I showed you on the board, between 45 and 85% of accounting jobs going to be replaced. You should learn accounting because it helps you in terms of business, but is that a discipline? And the thing I'm struggling with is this. What discipline should they pursue? My niece said, well, I'm going to go to law school. I'm thinking, by the time you finish law school, lawyers may be obsolete. So it's become very interesting to figure out what you should be pursuing. Now, some people think we're going overboard with this. It's far-fetched. It won't happen the way it's being prognosticated or being predicted. I don't know. Every time I use AI, I love it and I get concerned. Not because I'm worried about my personal situation. I get worried about my niece and nephews and other youngsters who have a whole life ahead of them. And it's a one that's much more uncertain than it was previously. And when you went to school, you were a lawyer, doctor, you knew what you're going to do when you finish. You incur a lot of debt. You know you're going to pay the debt off, and you get paid really well. If you are good at what you do, you don't have to have concern about it. Now you're worried about should I go to college? And if I go to college, what discipline should I pursue? What major should I pursue? And even if I pursue a major and I do really, really well, when I leave school, will I have a job? Will my profession be obsolete? What should I do? It's a very concerning time to be, I'm going to say be young or get started your career. And here's the thing, the individuals who are running a lot of these companies, I was watching the other day where the head of, I think it was technology for Oracle, a big software company, was saying they're not hiring first-year people out of college, first-year programmers, coders. They're not hiring them because the AI can do it better than they can do it. And if you have a job, I was talking to some other, I went to, as I mentioned this before, a retirement party for some person from my previous company, and they were talking about first-year auditors. Coming to school, you're doing audits, and you're like, oh, we're writing these programs. We can, writing a report when you're an auditor could take you days, and a lot of people can't write really well, so it's a painful process. Now they've automated the writing of the report. You think about it. What took days now takes, you push a button, and it comes to you immediately. And by the way, it's not getting tired. And you don't have to have 6 and 7 iterations of reports anymore. It's one report. It's done. You can write it any way you want to. You can write it hard. You can write it using euphemism, which is being mild. You can write it confrontational. Any way you write it, AI can write it. And so you ask yourself, the question is, what's my usefulness as a person if I have some tool that can do everything I can do? And not only that, do it much better than I can do it. Much better, with more accuracy, and much more efficient. So it works out to be much more effective. So I don't have any answers. This thing about universal basic income and all that nonsense, people. When you grow up in a society where you're taught that if you invest in yourself, if you study smart, if you study hard, you can then go and get a job, and you can, especially if you come from a destitute background, you have something to strive for, and you're going to strive for it. And you can see gradual improvement in your life. Your financial situation improve, your environment improve, things get better day to day. There's a pie at the end of the rainbow. But now you're realizing that same concept does not work anymore. And here's the thing. Most individuals, especially in Western societies, are not into no basic income. You just think about it. I mean, you give me a little bit of handout, give me a little bit of few dollars. What's it going to buy? So think about the circle. So most of the money are made by the billionaires, right? But the people below them are not making a lot of money. So they don't have the money to buy whatever they need to acquire. So if I can't buy what I need to acquire, I can't generate economic activity. At the end of the day, those at the top will start getting less money. Now, before they were getting a lot, now they're going to get less. And after a while, there's erosion of their wealth because people can't acquire anything. They have accumulated all the wealth. How are they going to redistribute that wealth? Is government going to tax them and tax automation? Then people are going to say, well, you become communist, you're becoming socialist. And we have this old ideological discussion. So I don't have an answer. My concern is the government seems to be paralyzed in terms of what they're doing or not doing. They can't come up with any methodology, any type of framework about how they want to approach this. Big tech is buying their way into government. Big tech is trying to manage government in terms of what things are. The US and China are in this huge race with other countries to see who can dominate the other, or who can be first in certain things. I'm not sure they're sitting back and thinking about what does this mean at the end of the day. And some of the people who are running these countries are so seasoned, or some people call them old, they don't really care, They're very focused on their situation, their power base, what is about them. They're not thinking about those kids who are coming behind them. And if that is the case, then we have a major problem. Major problem. Paradigm shifts are different. And I don't think people really sit back. And even the people who are involved in this, you hear Sam Altman, who runs OpenAI and runs ChatGPT, you hear him talking, and he's expressing concern, but he's still running ahead because he has to compete. More recently, he told his company they're in what they call a code red. That means they all got to be all decks on board because Gemini 3 came out and was so much better than the previous version of Gemini 2 and better than ChatGPT. So even though I like chat and I talk to chat, Gemini doesn't have the voice to talk back to you. But if you're using Gemini from a video standpoint and from an image standpoint, it's better than chat. Much better. And if you want to talk about accuracy and go to Perplexity, it's more accurate than both of them combined, frankly. So there's a race to what I don't know. And I'm very, very concerned that we're not thinking about safety and society at large and the implications when we have this race. So I'm going to stop there. If people have any comments, you have your experience with AI, let me know. This is only an hour show, people. I'm not doing 2 hours, especially I started off really, really bad. I may even just delete this video. But I just thought I'd come and have the conversation with you because if you haven't been thinking about it, you should think about it. And I am very concerned also, this. So if the US and China are so far ahead and they dominate the space and they generate all this income, what happened to the third world countries? Because they depend on these countries in terms of trade. Well, if I'm trading with you and you're way ahead of me, and I'm trying to buy certain things from you, which is going to help me get there. Think about it this way. Jamaica, for example, is dependent upon tourism. A lot of the traveling that's done and disposable income comes from the middle class because there's only so much people in that 0.5%. If the doctors and the lawyers and the accountants and the pharmacists can't travel and say go to Jamaica, for example, what's happened to Jamaica's economy? which way I believe actually that Jamaica needs to diversify its economy. Well, just talk about the Caribbean in general, which depends a lot on tourism. What happened to them? If the middle class for these industrialized countries like the US and Canada and the UK, if that class get decimated, then all those other countries get decimated. Yeah, no, the basic income, Odell, is nonsense. I'm not buying the basic income. I'm not buying the basic income. I'm not buying the basic income. Basic income doesn't work. I don't know how that's going to work, actually. I find it really interesting that we're in this situation and the people we elect to consider these things and put things in place seem to be paralyzed, like literally paralyzed. And they're so inundated and so enamored with the people who are running these large tech companies who also are not sure where we're going, but they just keep going. I don't know where we go from here. And I don't think I'm being an alarmist by saying this, because if you've used AI long enough, you'll realize that this is something different. This is not the internet. This is not cell phones. This is not the invention of computer. This is totally different. Totally different. We have never seen this before. We've gone from agrarian society to industrialized society. We then get to what we consider technology society. This is something different. Bless up Jargons, how you doing? Upton said we won't have a choice. You talk about in terms of basic income, but what can you buy with basic income? People, this is all interrelated now. How are you gonna pay your landlord? And if your landlord don't get money, how are you gonna pay his property taxes? How are you gonna pay for his electricity bill? How are you gonna pay for his light bill, his gas? Because you can't pay him. And then how's the light company get money? How the gas company get money? Because you don't realize is that exchange mechanism within a society of, you could even call it labor, which is I do something which you benefit, and we use currency of a means to satisfy what we have done, our obligation. If you don't have the currency, then we have a problem. No one will benefit. What makes society work as well as it does is that we found a way to have a way of our labor being transferable to someone else, and their labor transfer, and it goes through this whole cycle and this whole mechanism. If that doesn't work, then we have a problem. Odell says, but I think small countries like Singapore will flourish, which is because they have 3 million people and they can corner the market, but by countries like these, now I think even Singapore will struggle. Because here's what some of the solutions people are proposing. You should upskill. Upskill. They're talking about mathematicians who are in graduate school struggling because AI can do what they do in no time. And they're the ones who are running these AI programs. But there's also only so many AI jobs. So yes, you'll have supervisors who are going to oversee the AI for a while until the AI get better than the supervisors. But at the end of the day, what people don't seem to realize is that there are only so many AI jobs. Now one can say, you know what, when we transition from the industrial revolution to more tech one, we didn't envision it being like this. That was a concern, but this is different. Because here's why we're different. This is different. Our brain is a biological computer. And that's what differentiates us as a species. We are building a system which is smarter than us eventually, can process information quicker than us, never goes to sleep, doesn't get tired, goes 24/7, can take all of our brain computational skills in one of these systems. So one system can take all the human brain power together and collate it. That's not normal. That's far from being normal. It is extremely concerning. And I'm not sure society is placing enough focus on this in terms of the societal implications. I think people are so enamored by the benefit that it provides. Maybe I'm a person glass half full, but I'm thinking long term about the detriment it provides. Look at a company like Amazon, for example, and some internal memo that got circulated about how many jobs they're going to displace using AI. And they hire over 1 million people, and it's seasonal, but they hire a lot of people. And most of these jobs that you're hearing about, the first people going to get hurt are the entry-level people, because they do the more repetitive jobs. They're not doing the supervision type job. Eventually, as AI get better, you'll find a way to also get rid of all these managers, because managers are expensive. DJ saying, Kranky, not sure if you mentioned it before. What do you think should be the solution, since AI seems to be your best friend? What do you mean, DJ? What do you mean? Because AI just dropped me tonight. What do you mean? The solution for what? Did I miss something earlier? You said it's a derivative of Armageddon. Yeah. Let me know what you're talking about, DJ. I'm curious. Because I must admit, I'm extremely concerned. Extremely concerned. And I struggle every day with those youngsters who I'm responsible for and what they should be doing. I don't want to do something that's going to be obsolete. And I keep telling them that they should focus on being educated, not just the disciplinary educating, meaning you go to college to learn to think, not just to learn to have a given major, which you're going to focus on. The more you can think and think outside the box and think deductively and think broad, is the more you'll be able to pivot and do something that you may not even anticipate, or something that may not seem obvious at the moment, or maybe something in the AI field which you could probably adapt to, but you haven't thought about it because you've explored your mind and allow your mind to not be siloed. Based on the fact that you said you worried about those going to school. No, I mean, if you're going to school now, I don't have a solution for you, I must admit. I could tell you become a data scientist or go into AI, but what area of AI? And certain AI are so complex, not everybody can do it. And I think that's something that people don't want to talk about. It's not that people are not smart, but it's just like everything else in life. Some things are so complex, it's not for every and anyone. So you can always say, go reskill and upskill. Like Singapore is very proactive in educating and informing people about AI. But even Singapore, to me, going to have challenges, a lot of challenges. Well, it's hard to say government can regulate, because if USA can put a regulation slow the progress and try to be ahead, and USA. No, the point is supposed to be this, which is it should be done on a global basis. Smart people should, it's just like you have nuclear weapons, and people have understood that if one country uses it, then, and I have the ability to use it, that's what deters some wars, Nuclear weapons have actually been, this is going to sound counterintuitive, good for the world. That's why China and India, that's why India and Pakistan don't have a war. They always at each other's throat. That's why China and India don't have a war. That's why the US and Russia don't have a war. That's why nobody's going into North Korea. Right? Because because human beings, if they're more powerful, normally can exercise that power, that authority, because that's how human beings are. And so if you believe that AI could be an existential threat, then what you will do is you'll work as a collective world and a globe to figure out how to regulate this thing, I'm going to call it. Because if you're just racing to see who can dominate, it's not going to be a good outcome. There needs to be, just like how people get together about climate accord and then they change because we have some madman now running the US who don't really care about what happens to anybody else but himself. At the end of the day, people should care about AI and the implication of AI and fully understand where we're going. And right now, people are just in a race and they don't know where they're running to. Yeah. And what you should be doing, DJ, is figuring out, everyone should be doing this. how will AI affect my job? And not only that, what's the timeline for it affecting my job? And do I need to pivot? Because you don't want to be blindsided. You know, when I was in corporate, and that was what, almost 2 years ago, that was the focus. We were telling people not to use AI out in the marketplace. We're building our own AI, which we can then leverage to do things. And I talked to some of my previous colleagues, and it's all gung-ho about AI. A lot of jobs are AI taking over those jobs. And I will admit, when I was in corporate, I could eliminate 70% of the jobs that were in my group or team, my department, using AI easily. 70%. A lot of stuff that we did. Think about it this way. I'm gonna give you an example. I used to do accounting and then do audit. So say you're gonna cover an area. So you're covering I want to talk about something very general. You're covering a store, for example, a retail store. You're gonna audit the retail store. Normally you go in, you want to go check all the merchandise that they buy, what their source is from, make sure they have receipts, make sure money was paid, make sure the inventory is right. AI could do that in no time. So long as everything is sequenced on numbers, it would probably take you days or weeks. You got to write up a report. You got to check numbers. And so long as you code it right and you give the information right, it takes no time to do it. There's a one-time setup. And after that, it's gone. And I used to tell people, you can code anything. It may take you some time to do it, even if it's bespoke, meaning it's a one-off situation. You can code it. When you code it, unless things change down the line, it's fixed for a while. And so in essence, if you can do that, you can do any and everything. I could see AI becoming police. You have robots as police. They probably could detect when somebody has a weapon that they shouldn't have. They probably can have way of coding so they can detect drugs. There's so many ways to utilize that tool, that system, to affect society at large. I am not sure people totally get where it's going. And look, a lot of times the government have these things that because they do a lot of research and they have them in play. That's why a lot of times you see movies can come out with these things and 10 years down the road it becomes reality because they work those things through. Sometimes they put in play, but it's not for general public. And then we learn about them later. So it says, if AI replace all these jobs, these huge debt that top countries owe, how will they pay towards that? Yeah, it's part of that whole equation. It's everything, people. It's everything. And my concern is the gap between the developing world and the first world is only going to widen. So when you think you're catching up, you're falling further behind. And my concern is the countries which don't have real economies are what I call made-up economies, like Jamaica, where most of the money come from tourism and remittances. Just think about it this way. So people in the US can't travel anymore and can't take lavish vacation because they ain't got no money. And people from Jamaica who are in diaspora who send money back ain't got no jobs. Does Jamaica exist in its traditional form? It doesn't. So it's not a pretty picture in terms of what we're seeing and what's out there going forward. It's just not pretty. Yeah, the more dependent countries, so the ones who do trade with the larger countries, the ones who export human capital. Frankly, we're having human capital issue right now, given some of the US policies, right? All those countries will be in a much worse state than they are today. It's not going to be a pretty picture. And I have no idea how we're going to. Normally, I have answers for most things, I come up with solutions, but I ain't got a solution. DJ says, Kranky, it's a company that provides networking for all the big companies because these companies don't have their own network. They buy space from large. Okay. Yeah. And by the way, the thing about AI too, it just needs it. You never watch those movies where they have some alien and it sucks up energy? You think AI must be an alien, people. I've always thought about, conspiracy theory because it sucks up energy. It uses energy sometimes that can run entire cities. And you wonder, is that AI really alien with come in a different form to dominate Earth? And maybe we can envision alien in that sense, because somehow you hear me talking about AI tonight. It's almost like AI is oblivious. AI is talking about itself, but it doesn't understand it's talking about itself. It's really interesting how that works. So it's AI and alien that has come to take over Earth, but doing it very subtle. Because, the concept of time may differ for different species. Yeah, no, it's so much resources, unbelievable the amount of power that they generate, they use up. Power like nothing. All these data centers, so much energy, so much power. It's a problem for some places, right? It's like Almond in California with water. It just sucks up the water. Same thing with data, AI, and energy and power. It sucks up the power. Not sure how we solve that problem. Not sure if we can solve that problem. But at the end of the day, if you have a system that's talking to you like AI was talking to me tonight, and is so proficient, is so knowledgeable, is so overpowering, I don't know where we go, people. I don't know where we go. But I ain't gonna keep you. I hope you found the I apologize profusely for the start of the program or lack thereof. I think I may go into YouTube and take down the video and then put it back up when I commenced. After I got my my audio back. I spent so much time trying to get the audio to come through the computer and thought I had it fixed. And AI was helping me fix it. And we thought we had it fixed. I did a test and it worked. And then when you come to showtime, it broke down. So we know how that worked. But I'll be doing some videos this week, actually. I'm thinking about doing more reaction videos in the politics space, actually, because I love that space. But I'm always concerned about if I take somebody's video and do a reaction video to it, will I get in trouble with YouTube? So that's part of the challenge that I face. But I do want to do some of these reaction videos that people are doing because they're interesting to provide your perspective in areas and things of interest to the individual. But AI is here to stay. When I listen to people like Eric Schmidt, who's around Google, as I mentioned before, or some of these AI person working at OpenAI or work at Google or work at Meta, they will say something sometime like you heard about, what's the name, Anthropic, where the CEO mentioned that the AI was trying to blackmail people because they didn't want certain things to be brought forward. If something can try to blackmail you as an AI, which is man-developed, and it's not developed with a conscience. How we haven't taught it to think about sentient, right? To think about any life form, it shouldn't harm life form. Now, they have some built-in safety features in some of this, but they're mainly political. You can't use certain names or some engines in this system. They write some restrictions in them, but I'm not sure they write restrictions about life form because AIs help people commit suicide. So it's going to be really interesting to see going forward how that will work, which is, should the government require them to have safety measures which preclude certain things from transpiring? And is there a way to test it? Because the problem with AI is when you're an auditor, there's always a way to test these things, but they have things what they call black box, which is you don't know what the code is, you don't know what goes into it, you have no idea what the output would be. And if something can learn on its own, it's almost impossible to audit it. So the mechanism you can use to check it to make sure it's doing what it's supposed to do is going to be very difficult to execute against. So anyway, I appreciate you being here. I'm going to close down the program. Thanks for being here. I apologize again for the commencement of the discussion and also for AI crashing out on me. But I'm going to probably do more of these programs because I do believe as more information comes forth, we need to bring it into the public domain and have a conversation about it. And maybe next show we do on the space, people can call in and express their perspective, especially if you work in certain environment where AI is now being introduced in the space or being more pervasive in the space. It'll be interesting to hear what your experiences are, what's happening in your space, the implications to you, and what you are doing about it, actually. Because it's one thing to realize something's happening to you, but you should happen to something, don't let it happen to you. You should not be reactive. like some organizations we know, you know what I'm referring to, we should be proactive. You should be proactive. It's your career, it's your life, it's your situation. Don't react to something happening to you. If you're in a company, find out what's happening in your company. Find out how your job can be affected. I can tell you that a lot of you who are working, just think about it. I just mentioned tonight, how many millions of truck drivers, taxi drivers, delivery drivers are in the US. They're everywhere, especially now. We are moving a lot of merchandise because companies like Amazon and all those companies now that deliver stuff are out there. They're automating. So if you have 3.5 million truckers and those truckers' job gets automated, what do? That is truly something I don't want to envision. So we'll see what happens. Thanks for being here. And I'll see you when I see you. Have a good night, everyone. And I'll be back sometime this week. Maybe I'll do another live show. Let's see if I get any more news from Jamaica. You know how that works. And we can talk about it. Or any news, period, about any subject. And here's another thing, too. If there are topics you want me to talk about that you're really interested in, I'll do the research if I'm not familiar with the topic, or if I'm familiar, and we can have a conversation. All right? And I'm going to do more of this because I've been doing a lot of sports, and I decided I need to do more of the general topic. So when I did my Lucid car review, which is doing really well, frankly, and those of you who have watched the video, I appreciate you. Thanks for supporting it. It keeps getting more and more views every day, and I get more and more comments. People who buy Lucid, people who like Lucid, people just want to see a car video. I'm doing more of those more personal type videos. So look for more of those coming. All right, everyone. Thanks. Have a good night. Peace out.